The whole world is like, this is what we do, get in line and start marching. And you're like, I like a boy, which boy do I like? I suffered from a weightlifting injury last night.
What were you doing?
Putting a weight back on the rack.
It's a 2-pound dumbbell.
It was like 15. So
I use the 2.
Anyway. Hi guys, I'm Hannah.
I'm Sadie.
And we're not straight. And today we want to talk to you a little bit about something we've been talking a lot about, which is what to do when you think that you might not be straight. How to handle it.
Yeah. So first things first, don't panic. When I first started thinking about like the actual reality of this, I think I'm not straight. I was immediately wrought with these thoughts of, oh my God, like, what do I do? Who do I tell? Are people gonna judge me? What's my family gonna say? And I grew up in a really conservative, like religious town, family, and I grew up with the notion that I was straight. It was just like something that I had never considered before this, and it was overwhelming. I was realizing, whoa, like I don't think that's me. And I had gone, my whole childhood, part of my adult life, thinking this about myself, and I was like, I just was panicked because it was so overwhelming. And so I let myself kind of spin in those thoughts and think of these hypothetical situations that weren't based in reality, that were just these, horrible things are gonna happen. But it was all just in my head, and it was all just based out of fear.
You hear a lot of horror stories. Or maybe you only hear the horror stories about people who have had a really hard time or who are, exiled from their families or from church or.
Right.
But there's a lot more in between than that extreme and the other.
Yeah. And I think those are extremes, and they do warrant a lot of attention because it is a really extreme experience and reaction, but it's not the only thing that happens. And that, in fact, wasn't my experience. I didn't have I didn't have a horrible coming out experience. I didn't have a horrible time afterward. Sure, it was like very, very stressful, and it was like a very tumultuous time, but it wasn't something that I wasn't able to get through with the support of the people around me. So, don't panic.
First and foremost.
Secondly, and this was a huge deal for me, is give it some actual thought. I think growing up the way that I did, which was very normal, I think, growing up the way that I did sounds like I grew up raised by wolves or something.
Wolves are not accepting of sexuality.
They just go on instinct. But just growing up in the family and the community that I did, I think I was very much guided to believe that I was straight. Like that was just, that is what it is.
It's the only narrative around sometimes.
It's the only narrative around. And because of that, I never gave myself a fair shot at like really thinking about sexuality at all. I was just like, well, you like who you like. And I didn't realize how much influence the heteronormative, like the narrative of like one man, one woman, had impacted who I thought I liked. That put a lot of pressure on me to think like, okay, what boy do I have a crush on? And I like kind of went, that was like my childhood and then into adulthood as well. And I never really had a chance to actually reflect and examine my own opinions.
It's like the whole world is like, this is what we do, get in line and start marching. And you're like, I like a boy, which boy do I like?
Totally, it's like it's in Disney movies, like young kids are like prince and princess, like I want to be the princess, and my experience was no different. It wasn't until I met a group of friends and started spending a lot of time with them, and many of them are not straight, and they kind of prompted me to actually think about the potential that I would not be straight. The first thing they did actually was just to ask me, where's your girlfriend? And I was like, I don't have a girlfriend. And later on, and I was dating a man at the time, and I told them that. And later on they asked me, what percent straight I felt like I was, versus straight versus gay. We talked about this in an earlier video, and that's a very binary way of looking at it, but we explained a little bit more there. So if you want to check that out. So they asked me what percent straight I thought I was, and I said 100%, and they all lost it laughing. Like, they were like, there's no way. I was like, okay, like 90% then. And it was after that I was kind of like, am I 90% straight? Like, I had never thought about it in those terms, and it gave me a lot more flexibility to think of it. It wasn't just like a I'm straight or I'm gay. It was like a more on a spectrum, which I think is more realistic. And that was the first time I actually started to think about it. And that was really ultimately the thing that made me figure it out, was that I spent the time thinking about it. I didn't run away from it that time, and I talked through it with them, which is my third very important thing, is talk to people you trust. No matter where they're at in relationship or sexuality, talk to people you trust. Talk to people who you can go to, and you can just say, hey, I'm having these thoughts, and get their feedback.
Sometimes it's good to get outside of your own head. Like you were saying before, you can self-impose a lot of judgments, or fears, or anxieties, or fill in the blank. And a lot of that's just in your own little echo chamber. So it might not all be real, and as soon as you can vocalize it to someone else, that can help ground you back in reality. Absolutely. That's 100% what my experience was, and I fully recommend doing that. And maybe point 3.5 is talk to people who have had coming out experiences, whether they're coming out as the same sexuality or gender or whatever you're experiencing. Talk to other people who have had a coming out of their own. Right, or even talk to us. We're happy to talk to you. If you don't know many people who are part of this community, talk to us. It's important to have someone who will tell you, this is okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's a really cool community to be a part of. I think that can be so helpful. And listen to people's stories, or read people's stories about other people's experiences. There are tons of coming out videos online. Hannah has one on our channel that you can check out. Mine is forthcoming at a later date. And just check those out and hear your own experiences echoed back to you. It's the most validating thing you can do, is to have someone say, I've been through something similar, and it's okay. And this is eventually, maybe sooner, maybe later, gonna be super awesome, because you're being more honest about who you are. You're being your real self. You are learning about yourself, and you're trusting your instincts, and you're following what you believe to be true for your own experience. And that is 100% the most validating, liberating thing that you can do for yourself. And so it can change your life. It can change your world in a really positive way. What? I was just thinking about you and me. Change my world. You have to say it like that. I know, it sounded kind of creepy, but it's genuine. Okay, and lastly, be stoked. Be super excited. The more you learn about yourself, the more you understand yourself, the more fun you're gonna have, the more honest you're gonna feel, the more authentic your relationships will be. Both with romantic partners and not, and otherwise. And you're gonna experience something that is uniquely yours, and no one can tell you how that should or will go. But I hope that if you are experiencing something similar to what I experienced in my own thoughts and in talking to other people, I hope that this is helpful. And let us know in the comments. Reach out if you want. We're always here. Subscribe to our videos. We'll have more helpful, positive content for you, hopefully. There's a little subscribe button. I know. We just figured out how to do that. Isn't it cool?
So subscribe or subscribe.
Anyway, until next time. Bye.
Do I have a better joke?
About wolves.
Yeah.
Do you?
I don't think so. I was trying to think of one. Okay.